Taco Tuesday. So we got our black beans soaking, and we're going to talk about some ingredients here. We have a boneless Boston butt. We've got all our fresh ingredients and spices ready to go. Remember, we're not using anything out of a can or a box, so we know what we're putting in our food. The fresh produce, we're going to get into that later when we make our Pico De Gallo and our guacamole. We're keeping it simple with the spices. All we're going to need is some ground cumin, some dried oregano, coriander, ground cinnamon, and some bay leaves, and of course salt and a little bit of garlic. We're getting an early start today before little man goes to school, and we are going to season the pork and put it in the crock pot and let it cook all day. Right? While our beans soak. Is that right? So our first ingredient is cumin. This is the ingredient that's going to make your house smell good all day. It's going to make that pork delicious. And we're going to put 3 tablespoons of that. That's the first one. We need 2 more. You want to count them off for me? 2. Put it in there. And 3. Alright. Oh, pour that in there. Good job, buddy. Next, we're going to put 1 tablespoon of oregano. You want to hold that for me? Yeah, we're going to get to that part. 1 teaspoon of oregano. Teaspoon of coriander. And 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And these ratios don't have to be perfect. Good job. And we also have some bay leaves and some garlic, and we'll show you what we're going to do with that in a little bit. So we're going to take our meat, and we're going to take this wonderful spice mix that we just made. We'll mix it all together. You want to mix that up for me a little bit? Mix that up for me. Oh, good job. Okay, now for the fun part, getting our hands dirty, and you've been wanting to put your hands on that all morning. So, we've washed our hands really well. We're going to take our spice mix, and we're going to sprinkle it over the top of the meat. Okay, now we got it all on the meat, and we're going to rub it in. And we've washed our hands real good before we did this. Now remember, you got to wash little man's hands afterwards too. When we're dealing with raw meat, you can never be too careful. So we use an antibacterial soap and wash our hands afterwards, isn't that right? We'll flip it over, and we'll take some of the spices from the bottom. Alright, so now we're going to take our meat and we're going to put it in the crock pot. First thing we're going to do is put 2 bay leaves in the bottom of the pot. Right? 2 big bay leaves. We're going to put a teaspoon of garlic. Right? A teaspoon of garlic. You want to put that in there for me?
Yeah.
Alright. Drop it in there. And we're going to get 2 cups of water. You pour that in there for me, buddy? Hand me those, and you pour that in there. There you go, that's a good helper. Alright. Okay. So you want to help me out here, buddy? You want to put that meat into the crock pot?
Yeah.
Here, we'll pull it over here so it's easier.
Ow!
There you go. Now lift that up and put it in there. There we go. Good job. Alright. We're going to take a break and wash our hands again. Okay, we got our meat in the crock pot, and we're going to set this over to the side. And we're going to add our pre-cut onion. And we're just going to place that around the meat. Here, you want to put those in there? There we go. Throw that onion in there. Alright, that's perfect. And we almost forgot our salt, so we're just going to add that to our mixture. You're going to use about 1 to 2 teaspoons. So we're done with the first part. We're going to cook this for 8 hours on low, and we'll be back to cook the rest of our tacos. Now that we have everything loaded in our crock pot, we're going to cook this about 8 to 10 hours on low. We want to flip it over about halfway through, and we want to cook it until it'll easily pull apart with a fork. Little man has returned from school, and we've got our pork cooking. It's got about 3 hours left, and we've got our beans still soaking. And we're going to make our Pico De Gallo. We've got 3 cups of tomatoes, 2 cups of onions, and we have 2 sliced limes, cilantro, and a jalapeno. You can add more jalapeno if you like it hotter. Also, we're going to put some salt and some garlic in it. So, little man is just going to stir it for me while I add the ingredients. We're going to stir it up like this. Stir in those onions. You want to mix it for me? We'll just add the rest of that onion. We'll throw in our cilantro. You can add more or less of this, just depending on how you like it. We like it with a lot of cilantro too. And Dad's going to add the rest of these jalapenos. There we go. Little man. Hey, you want to squeeze these in? You're going to squeeze them in like that. And just squeeze all the juice from the lime in there. And what's going to happen is this lime is just going to kind of cook it down. And we're going to leave it in the fridge until dinner time and let all the flavors meld together. Alright, good job. And there we go. We're going to stir this up. So we're also going to add 1 teaspoon of salt to this. And little man is going to pour that in for us. And the other little man's getting fussy. So we're going to pour that in.
No.
There we go. Alright. And then also we're going to add a teaspoon of butter. There you go. And we're going to stir it up. Did you say spicy? Spicy, that's right. What's you got, your finger? You want this? Good job, buddy. Thank you. Well, little man's got another project going on right now with his choo-choo train, so we're going to do this part by ourselves. We're just going to get our black beans going, and it's a pretty simple recipe. We've already discarded our soak water and put in 5 cups of fresh water. We're going to add 1 chopped onion. Whoa. And a half a bell pepper. We're going to add our seasonings. These seasonings are basically the same as what you use for the pork. We're going to use a teaspoon of cumin. We're going to put a bay leaf in there. A teaspoon of oregano. And a teaspoon of minced garlic. We're going to bring our beans over to the stove and we're going to bring them to a boil. Once the beans are boiling, we're going to turn it down to a simmer. We're going to simmer these for about an hour to an hour and a half. With cooking beans, adding salt too early can make them tough. So we're going to wait until the beans are cooked to add our sodium. So we've got our beans cooking, and we're also going to add 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. We're going to go ahead and pull our meat out of the crock pot. See how it's falling apart? That's just right. We're going to let that rest for about 5 minutes. Now that our meat has had time to rest, we're going to pull it and place it in the oven to caramelize it. We're only going to use about half of it right now, since there's only 4 of us eating tonight. And we'll save the rest for leftovers. and we're just going to pull it apart. Just like you would with pulled pork. This butt was only 4 pounds, so it took about 8 hours to cook. A bigger one would take about 10 hours to cook. But you can see how tender it is, and this is how you want it right here. And for now, we're going to cover it up with some tin foil and set it to the side. In a little while, we're going to place it in the broiler to give it a little crispy edge. We're getting close to dinner time, and there's a couple more things we have to do to prepare for our meal. And little man is going to help me out with that. The first thing we're going to do is slice our avocado. And I'm going to do this. You just want to cut it around the seed, like so. And we're going to set this knife out of the way so little man doesn't get a hold of that. We're just going to open up our avocado like that. And we're going to slightly squeeze that avocado to get that pit out. We were going to make some guacamole tonight, but we ran out of time. So we're just going to use the avocado as an additional topping for our carnitas. And we're just going to slice this up so we can put it on our tacos. We like cheese. The cheese we're going to use is called Queso Fresco. It's a soft Mexican style cheese. It's very lean. And it goes really well with carnitas. Uh-oh. Looks like we're going to need a new fork. Yeah. With this cheese, there's no need to use a cheese grater. And we're going to take this and we're going to use a fork and just break it up like that. You want to break it up? So we're just going to keep on crumbling this until we've got our desired consistency. And that looks pretty good. That looks good, huh? We've got one more big step in our taco building process. We're going to take a little juice from our broth, and we're just going to pour that over the meat to help keep it moist. And then we're going to set that in the broiler on low for about 10 minutes, and we're going to stir it occasionally. The next thing we're going to do is add about a teaspoon of oil to a pan, and this pan has already been preheated. And we're going to take our tortillas, and we're just going to kind of coat them with that oil a little bit. And there should still be a little bit of oil left in the pan. Just place your tortillas in there, and you just want to kind of brown them on each side. This is how we make our soft corn shells. In a future episode, I'll show you how to make hard-shelled tacos out of the same type of tortilla. And that looks pretty good. It's got a little brown color to it. And those are getting pretty close. So we'll go ahead and pull these off. And we'll make another batch just like that. And we'll come back and make our tacos. Well, there we have it. All the makings for a wonderful carnita dinner. So we're going to build our tacos, right? You ready? Alright, we're going to start out with our shells. And we're going to put a little meat on there. Dad's going to put a little meat on his. Pull a couple tomatoes out of here for him. He doesn't like the onion. So we'll just pull everything but the onion out. Oh, little man's getting fussy in the background. I think this dinner's done just in time. Sometimes it's hard to juggle cooking dinner and taking care of the baby at the same time. How about some avocado? I know you like avocado. There you go. Yeah, big one for Daddy. And our black beans. We like to put a little cheese on those too. So dinner is ready, and just in time because little man in the background is starting to get a little fussy. Please join us again next time for another episode of Cooking with Little Man. Say bye-bye.